Welcome to the fourth installment of Symphony 101, a series of short educational videos where some basic questions about orchestra are answered and some fun facts about symphonic music are presented. My name is Mariusz Smoli, I'm music director and conductor of Acadiana Symphony Orchestra in Lafayette, Louisiana. Today I would like to talk about the many different instruments that make up the modern symphony orchestra. Because of the way they are built and played, they belong to three basic families. First is the family of string instruments, where you generate the sound but making the string to vibrate, either by using your finger or a bow. Then we have family of wind instruments. The sound is generated here by vibration of the air that you blow into a different type of pipes. There are two subgroups in the wind family, the woodwind instruments and the brass instruments. Then we have a family of percussion instruments, where the sound is generated by simply striking or hitting different kinds of objects. Instead of looking at each family separately, I suggest that we look at the variety of instruments from a different perspective, namely comparing them to human voices, the most perfect instrument after all, and looking at the function they play in the overall orchestral family. The lowest human voice and the foundation of the sound in a choir is bass. In the orchestra, that foundation is created by the double basses in strings, the bassoons in the woodwind family, and tuba and bass trombone in the brass section. In percussion, this bass function is being played and done by timpani, the set of big drums, and a bass drum. The second lowest voice is the baritone, and it's represented in the string family by cellos, in the woodwinds by the low clarinets, bass clarinet, by the English horn, and also by trombones, who can play in the bass and the baritone and even the tenor register. The timbre of baritone and tenor, the highest male voice, are quite close to each other, so all the instruments I just mentioned can cover both of those registers. Note that all the instruments playing in the lower register are the largest instruments in the orchestra. Why? Because sound, in terms of physics, is basically a vibrating column of air, and the length of the waves for the lowest sounds are the longest, the biggest, and for the sounds that are higher with the shorter and faster frequency, the waves are shorter. Therefore, the instruments that need to play the lower notes have either lower strings or longer pipes, and the instruments that play in higher register, they need to create shorter and faster waves, are instruments that are smaller with shorter strings, or they have shorter pipes. Going back to our choir, the alto and mezzo-soprano, the low female voices, are being represented in our string section by violas, in the woodwind section by clarinets, and in the brass sections the French horns often assume the alto voice. However, French are very versatile instruments. They can also help the baritone and the bass registers. The highest register in the choir and the highest human voice is soprano. The sopranos in the string family are the violins, in the woodwind family flutes and oboes, and in the brass family the smallest brass instrument, trumpets or cornets. Also in percussion we have some soprano-like instruments, for example the triangle or the glockenspiel, which has a very small short metal plates that can play in very high register. The highest sounding instrument in the orchestra is piccolo, the small flute. The lowest sounding instrument in the orchestra is not tuba, as many of you may suspect, but the contrabassoon, the bass version of the bassoon. Now, every person and every human voice, regardless of register, presents its own different characteristics, its own different personality. But the different sounds, timbres, and instrumental personality will be a subject for our next meeting. Thank you for joining us for another edition of Symphony 101 with Acadiana Symphony Orchestra, and I'm looking forward to see you again. Thank you.